Well, let's put a little bit of sky in here, shall we? I'm using cobalt blue and a hint of yellow ochre and white, titanium white. I want that yellow ochre in there. I like what yellow ochre does to the mixture of blue and white. It warms it up just slightly, just a little bit. But I think it's kind of a valuable little bit. And there are, of course, strokes that are only cobalt blue and white, but having a bunch of strokes in there that contain some cobalt or some yellow ochre, it just warms it up. It becomes a little less cartoony. You know, I know my style for these is often quite cartoony, but I don't want to push it over the edge. And I think that helps to avoid it. So we're cutting in around this tree here. Let me just get a little more generous with my yellow ochre and my white. And throw in just some indicators. I want my importance to be in here, so let's lay a few lines or a few strokes like that in there, okay? And then go back to our yellow ochre here. Trying to maintain a reasonable amount of variety in the blues. Dropping our value as we wander away from our intense area. Trying to clean some of the paint ridges. I'll often, once I've painted an area, I'll take my knife and a piece of toilet paper and scrape off very lightly. You know, with each stroke, wiping what ends up on the knife off of the knife so that I can go in with a clean knife each time. And scrape off ridges, you know, where the sky meets the tree. I don't want ridges there because that's going to cause problems when I come later to paint the tree in. But I think in this case what we might do is try to catch it as we go along. And I'm not concerned if a little bit of warp and weft shows through. It doesn't bother me at all. just gives things a little bit of a richer feel, I think, if some is left. I'm not going to plan exactly every spot where it's left, but in some cases it's just fine with me if it stays. Okay, I got a little bit, my knife was a little bit heavily loaded there, so I'm gonna clean that right away. And that. And we'll put I have this tendency sometimes to make my lines a little too tidy. And I'm doing it right now, but I'm not going to worry about it. Not going to worry. Okay, scrape that too. On a big painting, on a big canvas, I don't worry as much about those things. But this is a painting, it's only a 16 by 20, so people will be viewing it from fairly close up in most instances. You know how you look at a painting and, if you're standing in front of it, typically you'll get a little closer and a little closer and then stand back and a little closer and then stand back. Because it can be kind of interesting to see how things are put together, and when you close the distance and you stand close to it, you can see those things a little more clearly. Okay. A little more cobalt blue. This is always tedious, cutting in around your shapes. But hey, it's there are always more fun parts and more boring parts. But if you have bits on your painting that seem a lot like labor, well, then the reward is all the more. The reward of a finished painting is all the greater if you've had to put more effort into it. Just part of the job. Or should I call it a job? Maybe I shouldn't say that. Often it doesn't feel like a job, even though it is my job. It's just kind of a lot of fun. Okay, I'm going to add a little more cobalt blue on my palette and take a bit of a step back here for a moment.
Actually,
Yeah. Going Going okay. Going well. Back to our colors. Boy, this canvas eats up color pretty quickly. See how much bluer that is? No yellow ochre in that at all. So it's nice to have a shot of just that very strong blue. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to blue and a little more yellow ochre. And a higher value again. You know, sort of a hint of a few clouds wandering around in the blue sky. Nothing serious, just enough to break things up. That might be too centralized in this dip. Let me just make more of a transition between this and this. Okay, that's a little better. And we'll go back to some more cobalt blue. And yellow ochre. And white. It's a little too much yellow ochre. I'm going quite green. And more blue. Yeah, that's pretty green. That's okay. It's okay. Staying with a pretty small knife here. Okay. Let me just catch up on my scraping here, wherever I see a ridge that I don't want. I get rid of these ridges because I don't want to have to stay perfectly, but within the lines between the dark and the light when I paint the bush. The bush is, of course, closer than the sky is So if when I'm painting these trees, I overlap into the sky a little bit, I don't have to worry too much because it will look completely natural. Okay, I'm going to cobalt blue, a little bit of yellow ochre, and a hint of alizarin crimson. Almost imperceptible, but it's there. That knocks down our chroma a little bit. So our value in chroma falls off the scale as we get to this upper right-hand corner. Okay. Just going over that. Didn't mix quite enough. Did not mix quite enough. Okay. That gives us a bit of a feel for the sky. Now, I'd like to take some titanium white into yellow ochre. Tiny bit of cobalt blue. And again, a little more yellow ochre this time. Go over that. That's just a little too cold for my taste. Wipe the knife. Okay. Add a little more white. Okay. Just gonna step back, stand up and turn around and have a little gander at a bit of a distance. And for the moment that's good. Let me square off the camera with the canvas so that you can see what I see. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so far, so good. Let's talk real soon.